What's up, Capricorn? Welcome to your September 2020 Creativity Tarot reading. My name is Kayleigh Jean, and welcome to my channel. I record these readings for artists, entrepreneurs, and really anybody who's working on their personal growth or self-expression in any form. Also, spirituality tends to be a big focal point in topics, so if those areas of life are important for you, I encourage you to go ahead and keep watching. I also want to say really quickly that you can use these readings for your sun, moon, or your rising sign, and it's also sometimes possible that they won't resonate. They are just general readings, and I encourage you to come back to this video at the end of the month as well if you want to just see if maybe it makes more sense at the end of the month. It's often the feedback that I get. All right, Capricorn. While I was tuning in for you, I just had a really beautiful visual of a horse just running at full gallop. So I don't know what this means for you. I don't know in what area of life that message is relevant for some of you, but I really do feel like there's a sense of kind of go for it right now. There's a sense that you've got sort of the wind in your sails, so to speak. This is a really good time for you to branch out. This is a really good time for you to try something new or take a risk. Now, obviously, as I say that, I want to make sure that I'm also pointing out that, you know, just like you naturally would because you're Capricorn, it's important to always, you know, do a cost-benefit analysis and really be sure, you know, that whatever you're doing makes sense on a pragmatic level. But the truth is, sometimes we have to take risks in order to make any gains in life. And so as long as we've thought it through, we are really being analytical and considering all of our options and taking calculated risks. I think that that is really the name of the game this month for you, is calculated risks, thinking things through, and then, you know, just going for it, not overthinking it, but just kind of having that nice balance. But I do feel like this is a really good time for many of you to branch out or to pursue something and be ambitious, because it's going to come with a certain degree of mastery. I feel like you're going to feel a sense of trust in yourself once you kind of get things going, even if you're a little bit afraid to in the beginning. You know, it's almost like when somebody goes to do a public speaking gig, they might feel kind of anxious at first, but then they get up to the podium and they just realize that they know what they're talking about. And so they could just kind of go with it, and it's fine, and it's really not a big deal. So if there are some things like that in your life that you've been thinking about doing, just know that September could potentially be a really good time for you to just embrace those things that normally tend to make you feel a little bit, you know, hesitant or shy. But once you actually get into it, I think it's actually going to be a lot easier than you're expecting. So let's take a look at your tarot cards and we'll get some more information. I'm using the Tarot Muha for you guys. I just feel like this is a really beautiful deck. And it has a very nice golden kind of September-y vibe. Okay. So I'm also going to get you your Animal Spirit Oracle cards. Capricorn. From the Bob Ross Oracle for Capricorn. And your Surrender Oracle card. So let's take a look at your path and the obstacle. Wow, so you have the path as the hyena, and the obstacle is the turtle, or sometimes this card can also be an influence. In this case, I do feel like it's kind of an influence, and it's also sort of a guiding message. So For you, Capricorn, I think that you are. It's funny because the word that came up for me, or like the phrase that came up for me when I turned over this hyena was into the lion's den. So I know that's kind of funny because this is a hyena card. It's not actually a lion card, but maybe it's just the fact that these creatures live in the same environment. Hyenas share their environment with lions, and they're both sort of predatory creatures. They both represent creatures that have to have a very strong sense of self-preservation in order to thrive in their environment. And, let's face it, they are predatory creatures. So there is definitely that sense of needing to be really aligned with your self-interest, Capricorn, and not being too, worried about how that might come across other people. Like, you might feel worried or concerned that you're being selfish in some way this month in September. And it's always good to consider the light and shadow in everything that we do in life, which is symbolized here by the moon being half lit and then half in shadow. We're all a mixed bag. That's the truth of it. Nobody's all light. Nobody's all darkness. We have people who are very, very strongly, in a very high vibration, but if we're in the physical, if we're in our human bodies, generally speaking, most people have a little bit of yin, a little bit of yang, and it's all kind of playing out in, a way that is related to the attitude and the energy that they hold. So you don't have to be perfect is really the message here, but it is important to be aware of your motivations for what you're doing, Capricorn. And I also feel like there's this energy with this card of because it's coming up as your path, I think that you know that you are going directly into an experience by your own volition where you can experience criticism from others, or where you can kind of interact with maybe the less desirable faces of the other people around you or other people in general. For example, if you are sharing something that's a little bit controversial in some way, like online or with family members, there's probably going to be pushback in some way with this card. And there's a sense of also needing to be clever, I feel, needing to be, like I was saying before, actually, interestingly, during your meditation messages, needing to be calculating about how you do things. And there's nothing wrong with that. There is a space for being just spontaneous and kind of jumping into things. But when there's a very delicate situation that needs to be handled, it also really helps to have a clear intention going into it about what you're going to say, what kind of energy you're going to bring, and basically a game plan, really. So there's something about you interacting with people that are like the hyena, but there's also something about you kind of being the hyena in some way, being and you know what? It's interesting because sometimes it takes a strong person to stand up to a bully, right? Sometimes it takes a bully to face off with a bully, right? If you're just purely only this nice little sweet little appeasing Capricorn all the time, then that's not actually going to always result in you being well taken care of in your life, right? Sometimes you do have to have teeth so that you don't even have to use them, right? I think there's some proverbs about that, about the person who has might, the person who's genuinely very strong and can do harm often doesn't need to do harm, because the fact that they can and the fact that they would, if attacked, means that people don't attack them, right? So there's actually a certain degree of responsibility in terms of you knowing that you yourself can be a predator if you need to. You yourself could be a warrior. You yourself could be an incredibly, formidable enemy, right? But just the fact that you have that strength of your own shadow within you just because you have that means that a lot of times you're never going to have to use it. And that was something that Carl Jung talked about a lot. So I see that here. There's also the dynamic of the turtle, which I think is about kind of, in this context, it's about keeping cool and just moving forward, I feel like this turtle, the way it's swimming, to me indicates that you have the ability to kind of just go with the flow. and that you don't have to be reactive to everything this month. I really feel like there is a universe where you experience, the energies of September in a very not self-contained, but I don't know how else to describe it. It's like a very self-possessed way. Like, things don't have to bother you this month. You can wade and go with the flow throughout your life, and you can maybe interact with like the shadow side of someone around you here and there, but you don't have to, like, because you're certain of yourself, you don't have to respond or react to it. Do you know what I mean? And that also comes from that strength that we were just talking about. So let's take a look at your tarot cards. We've got Temperance with Knight of Wands, the Four of Swords, the Page of Pentacles, King of Swords, Two of Swords, Page of Wands, and the Two of Wands. So you kick off the month with the only major arcana card in the spread. So this tells me that there's something about the onset of the month that is kind of standing out. Like, what you do in the first week or so of September is really setting the tone for the rest of the month. I feel like you're kind of launching yourself into something in the beginning of the month. And this could be communications related, because we actually have a full moon in Pisces on September 2nd, which is for you symbolically going to be in your third house. And the third house has to do with the internet, publications, writing, speaking. It can also have to do with siblings and people in your neighborhood as well. So because this is happening in your third house, I think that there's a potential for you to kind of experience like some sort of growth spurt when it comes to your communication and maybe your online presence if you have one, or your maybe travel as well, because the third house can represent travel. And we also have the new moon in Virgo in the third week, and that's actually going to be in your ninth house, which is another house that has to do with travel. So there's a possibility of travel for some of you, or travel plans. But either way, I feel like you're sort of launching yourself. Like, look here, I had that meditation with like the horse, like at full gallop. And here it's your second card that you got, shows a horse kind of rearing up and in full gallop. So there is something that you're sort of launching yourself into. And the Temperance card, for me, when I look at this, is kind of talking about an end to, like, I guess a feeling of like needing to moderate and be patient because I feel like as you it's almost like you're breaking some sort of silence and kind of rushing into something. However, by the time we get to the second week of September, you've got the Four of Swords and the Page of Pentacles in reverse. So I think that whatever you're doing in like the first part of the month is actually kind of potentially going to represent a big exertion for you. You could have just a really busy week in the first week of September, or you could just be physically like drained by the end of it for some reason. So it's really important that you get some time to rest, whether that is maybe taking an extra day off during the second week of September, or working a little bit shorter hours than normal, or just resting more and taking naps when you can, whenever it's possible for you to do that. I really feel like with the Four of Swords and then the Page of Pentacles in reverse, it makes me feel like some of you are genuinely just going to need to rest your physical body a little bit more than you have been up until that point in the month. I think that you're going to be definitely feeling the pull to just like stay in bed a little bit longer, or get a little bit more sleep, or just, chill on the couch with a good book if that's possible for you. You're going to need to relax yourself a little bit more. And definitely I would say with the Page of Pentacles in reverse, it's super important that you nourish yourself and that you're eating enough food, because sometimes we surprisingly are not eating enough of the right foods. We might think, we just tend to assume that we're like eating, plenty or whatever, but actually if you look at like the amount of calories that you're really getting and the macronutrients that you're really getting, you could find that some of those macronutrients could be off, or that you're just not quite getting enough calories, or even just that you're, not getting enough protein or something like that. So I think it's super important for you to be aware of your physical body and just be willing to nurture yourself, Capricorn. Be really willing to feed yourself physically and literally, but also metaphorically in whatever spiritual practices or hobbies, even just recreational like pastimes that you like knitting or something just kind of silly that you don't normally give yourself plenty of time for. I think it's super important to do those things in the second week of September, because you're going to probably need a little bit more rest and a little bit more just like personal enjoyment. Okay, the third week of September, we've got the Two of Swords and the King of Swords in reverse. So this could be some kind of difficulty with an air sign person that is not really ready to like meet you halfway when it comes to decision making, is really like what I feel from this. So if some of you are married or in a business dealing or a business contract, or even doing a collaboration with an air sign person, that would be Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius, they may present a little bit of a challenge to communicate with them for some reason during the third week of the month. It could also be that the King of Swords represents an aspect of you, and the Two of Swords is representing like a need to think more clearly for some reason. And this could be achieved through like cognitive therapy. Like you could work with a cognitive therapist or somebody who kind of helps you, maybe even a life coach, somebody who helps you like be a sounding board essentially for your thoughts and help you recognize thought patterns that are just a little off, that are sort of leading you kind of down, a rabbit hole or into a negative belief system that is just not true at the core. I think that, you just need a little bit of support with communication things, whether this is, internal communication, like your thoughts and how you think and communicate with yourself, or maybe, like I said before, it could be an air sign person that you're in a relationship with or in business with somehow, and you're just like it's a little bit more difficult. So think about in the third week potentially getting some support with that, either from, like I said, a counselor or a life coach, or maybe even a family therapist if it has to do with other people. But I overall really just feel like you can get this energy turned around, but it's going to take a little bit of effort. It's going to take a little bit of work, and the work is mainly on the level of communication. So maybe you have people in your life who you don't have the best relationship with. It's time to just pick up the phone and have a deeper conversation with them. Or, like I said, if it's somebody that you live with, maybe it's time to, just put up the white flag and be like, all right, we maybe haven't done counseling before, but we want to actually just, do this to support our relationship, right? Like there's no shame in it whatsoever. And it could actually be a really good communication tool. You guys could learn a lot. So there's that. Or it could even be with a friend, and in that case, maybe you're not going to go to a therapy session together, but it would just be about, just having more of a gentle heart-to-heart about things, because it does feel to me like there's going to be some misunderstandings that need to be cleared in that third week of September. And that's really the gift of that week, is that if you do the work, Capricorn, and if you meet the other person halfway, you can actually come to a new understanding, which would make the relationship or the business dealing much more solid and clear, and just ultimately successful for the both of you. The last week of September, you've got the Two of Wands and the Page of Wands in reverse. So this is interesting because we have like the reversal of the page, who's got one wand, and his body language is kind of curved, and he looks like he's got his hand here. He looks a little bit kind of maybe unsure of himself. Or unsure what he's going to do. But then the upright card is the Two of Wands, and she's got the globe, and she's looking down over this landscape. So she has a clear view. So what I get from that for you, Capricorn, is that actually the second week, or the fourth week, which is the very end of the month after the sun has moved into Libra, is potentially a really good time for you to revisit your goals and revisit your plans for either your business or for you personally, like your life goals or your goals for the next year. It's super important to have something that you're aiming for. Because if you don't have that, reality and life has a really hard time organizing itself for you. So if you have basically a clear idea of like what you want to achieve within the next, 2 years or 3 years or whatever, even if you don't accomplish that, or even if you have to change your plans mid-year, that's totally fine. It's not about like achieving a goal at any cost. It's not like that at all. But just having your sights set on something makes it so that your entire reality kind of makes sense to you. Because anything that moves you closer to that goal, you are going to experience a positive mental, psychological, and emotional response to. And anything that represents a hurdle to overcome in that goal or achieving or moving towards that goal is going to also potentially give you a boost, because when you figure out how to go around it or over it, then you've just, grown as a person. So either way, it kind of helps you derive a clarity and a sense of meaning and purpose in your life. Just having a clear goal, just having something to set your sights on. So maybe if some of your plans have changed since COVID with your business, for example, or with your lifestyle, maybe it's time to revisit those plans and really start to visualize what you want your life to look like. Maybe just try a year from now and get that nailed down in writing at the end of the month. I think the energies are going to be really ripe for that. You're going to have the information that you need to set a more clear vision for yourself at that time. All right, so your Bob Ross Oracle deck card is Son of a Gun. That's a pretty nice tree for being done that quick. I love this card, and I've gotten this one in my own personal readings with this deck, and I absolutely love it. I think this is referring to the Knight of Wands card in the beginning of the month, and how you're kind of breaking a silence or breaking that calm energy with the Temperance. You're kind of moving past that and doing something more spontaneous. Like I said before, taking a risk, and this is saying that risk or that sense of trusting yourself can result in something much better than you expected, right? So it's always a nice message. Wow. So your Surrender Oracle card is Surrender to Divine Timing. It says, sometimes divine timing may differ from your ego's timing. If a goal isn't manifesting fast enough, according to your ego, be patient and trust the universal flow. Beautiful. And your Sacred Destiny Oracle card is Wisdom. Wow. Somebody else got this recently too, one of the other signs. I think this is really just about trusting the wisdom that you've gained in your life experience and knowing that you do have what it takes, even if you're running at a gallop, right, in that first week. It's about trusting the wisdom that you've almost kind of subconsciously patterned into yourself through your prior lessons and experiences. So, looks like a really, a very productive month, I have to say, Capricorn. Definitely resting is the most important in that second week. And really diving deep and doing the hard work of uncovering and finding clarity with any misunderstandings in your life in the third week. Those are two of the biggest pieces of advice I can give you for this month. I hope this reading has been beneficial for you. I hope it gives you something useful and healing to think about as you move through the energies of September. Please let me know in the comments if you have any feedback or questions, or if you just want to let me know you're still with me, just put a little red heart below. I would absolutely love to see that, and it's super helpful for my channel as well. And it's just lovely to know that you guys are still with me, because I know my readings are long. Also, you can donate any amount. I'll put the link below. Even just $1 is fantastic and super, super supportive and helpful to all the work that I put into these readings every month. Like and subscribe, and I hope you have an amazing month. Take care of yourselves, and I will talk to you next time.